You've graduated, Dom. You're out there in the working world as a professional. You're at a health organization. What did you most take away from the leadership course that you took with me and that you have been able to directly apply to your position now?
Definitely the fact that you don't have to know everything about everything to be a good presenter. You just have to be knowledgeable about your audience and knowledgeable about your topic area as much as you possibly can. And research your material, practice as much as you can beforehand, but don't get so hung up on trying to be perfect and trying to be an expert on everything. So you have to just be the best version of yourself.
I love the line that you said, you don't have to know everything about everything, because this happens to students all the time. And honestly, it happens to people who are not students too, where you feel like you have to be an expert at everything, but that's just not true. You don't have to be an expert to get started or even to do something well. Well, let's take it back to when you were interviewing and getting the position. Were there things and strategies that you applied in the interview process?
In the interview process, some things that I applied, I learned from the class, included having a portfolio with me in the actual interview, having a printout of my resume, having several copies of my cover letter and resume. And I would also say that I made sure to have questions written down for each and every single one of my interviewers. And I also made sure to research who they were so that I knew who I was actually being interviewed by. So I got there 20 minutes prior. I made sure to get comfortable with the location. Like several days prior to my interview, I actually visited the place and I made sure that I knew the area well and where I'd be able to park and the weather and all that sort of stuff. I planned for all of that. I had backup, shoes and clothes in my car. And I think also the eye contact. I remember you teaching us about not too much eye contact, not too little eye contact, but just the right amount of eye contact. And my interview was actually a panel interview. So I had 3 people interviewing me at the same time. And so the other thing was not rushing to give answers. I made sure to pace myself and think about what I was saying. And those are all things that I learned from being in the course.
And all very important reminders for anybody who's listening, getting ready for an interview, whether you're a college student or starting a new position in life. All of those things matter and help make a really great impression with people. And the eye contact, at least in this part of the world, for us here in the United States, eye contact is a really big deal because it speaks to engagement and confidence and how present we are with the person that we're speaking to.
Yeah, and 2 other things I wanted to add would be I made sure to always keep my hands visible during the interview process, which I remember learning about. And I also made sure to send individualized responses to all of my interviewers saying thank you afterwards. And specifically, I mentioned specific things that they said in the interview in my thank you message. So I started off by saying, thank you for interviewing me, taking the time to do this. And I like that you said X, Y, Z, specifically at this point in the interview. And then I tied it back into what my skill set is to help get the position.
Absolutely. One of the things we talked about in addition to eye contact the most in class were the position of our hands. So when people get nervous, they tend to want to hide their hands below the table or put them away. And so like eye contact, it's something that shows confidence, but also openness and trust, because our palms, these are the parts whenever we show these that we have nothing to hide. So it's very rare that people actually reply to say thank you. And then from those that do say thank you for your time, thank you for the interview, most people leave it a little bit generic. But we talked about making it custom, and you did that in your own interviews to say thank you, because even if this position doesn't work out, you simply don't know when in the future you might come across these individuals again, and you want to make sure that they're left with a favorable impression of your character. And I suggest, even if the answer is no, you straight out get told we're not going to be hiring, that you still reply back something with integrity, with appreciation, and wishing the organization the best. And those are things that very few people take the time to do.
One position that I interviewed for, and then I got a message a few weeks later saying that the position was no longer available because of budget cuts. And so I sent them a message saying, thank you for your time. Keep me in mind for any additional things that might pop up. Something along those lines. So I still didn't burn that bridge. I still kind of made that connection because those interviewers actually are part of a group that I'm a part of right now. So I still, I still keep in contact with them.
You got the job, Dom. You implemented successful interviewing strategies. You went on several interviews, and then you landed this position. In addition to the skills you mentioned, you talked about how you've been able to apply skills for presenting, speaking to your audience, the interviewing skills, and the ongoing communication skills. What other things have you applied from the leadership class to your professional life now?
As for working as part of a team. So we learn different things like conflict resolution, um, just kind of not gossiping, not being negative in the workplace, being very professional at all times. And also, I think the biggest thing is that listening more than I talk. And so I remember there was this one time my supervisor actually told me, she was like, you seem very laid back oftentimes, and you're not really the first one to kind of interject in conversation when we're having group meetings. And I told her, I was like, I like to listen more than I talk. And I don't like to just be the first one to just give my opinion on everything. I like to listen and get a feel for what people are saying, understand where people are coming from before I actually give my 2 cents. And she thought that was really interesting that I said that, because she was like, I never really thought about it like that, because, she didn't really know like what to make of it, that she kind of perceived me a certain way, but I explained to her why I'm that way. And so she thought it was really cool that I take the time and I'm not just an impulsive person when it comes to decision making and when it comes to team building and being a team member.
Right. So many of us, and I've talked about this with other people many times before, we tend to be, when we're listening, we're not fully listening because we're preparing our answer. Like we're getting ready for that reply part. One of the best skills we can learn as effective communicators is to actually be listening, which again is about being present in the moment. Mm-hmm. Our answers can come after we've had a chance to listen, but I'm sure that she was really impressed coming from a recent graduate to be able to speak to that level of listening. But that's the power of learning this stuff when you're in school. You get to apply it right away. You don't have to wait 10 years to have X amount of experience to apply excellent communication techniques. You learn it, you apply it right away. And it sounds to me like that conversation maybe even had some influence over how she perceived you, and maybe even how she perceived listening, or how she acted on listening after that conversation.
Yeah.
We've chatted a little bit about the strategies that you took away from the leadership class and how you applied it immediately, interviewing for jobs, some of the ways that you've communicated your presentations at your job, and then also contributing to meetings as a team player where you're able to listen before replying, where you're able to process the thoughts. If you had to summarize your message today for the people that are listening, maybe they're students starting out, maybe they have an interview tomorrow, maybe they're switching careers, how would you summarize your message to the audience in one sentence?
The message I would have for the audience is to always play on your strengths. I think that there are certain things that are not going to resonate with me that might resonate with someone else. And so it's about being an individual and being the best version of yourself.
Just a reminder to ourselves and to everybody listening that in order to be successful and to do well and to get started, we don't have to be experts in everything. That's completely a myth. And sometimes it's a thought that only keeps us stuck, because then we think we can't move forward unless we have all of this knowledge. And that's just not true. Moving forward, we need to take that step in order to get to the next phase that we're in. And Dom, if you had to design a t-shirt with your message, so you just have a few words, just a little bit of space, what does your t-shirt say?
Something along the lines of, you're never done learning. Like even in this position, there are certain things that, I hear from my colleagues that I'm just like, oh, I never thought about it that way. And it helps me to be a better team member. So I think you're never done learning. That would be the main message of my t-shirt.
I love it. And I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I definitely would love a t-shirt that says that you're never done learning. So true. I think I would also put the slogan you said early on. You don't have to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
I like that one too. Is there a skill that you're still working on today? Speaking of, you're never done learning.
When it comes to public speaking, like just earlier this week, I presented in front of 120 people virtually. I did a transgender health um, webinar, and I was supposed to take like an hour, but I took 30 minutes to do the whole webinar, and I had 50 slides. And so the webinar itself was very good. I think I did really well. I saw my recording of myself, but I was talking a little bit too fast throughout it. And so I have to keep working on that. And I've gotten comments from my colleagues saying that I talk too fast oftentimes. So I think that's the main thing. But overall, my presentation style is way better than it used to be. I touch on all the important topics that I need to for each webinar that I do. People say that I'm a very good presenter. I even had someone on the webinar ask me if I'm a PhD because I'm very knowledgeable. I'm a good presenter. I thought it was very shocking. I was like, no, I'm not a PhD.
Well, you might be. And
no, I'm not interested in that. But yeah, I think I have to keep working on pacing myself while I'm presenting.
very exciting to hear that already in your career, Dom, you are doing webinar style presentations in large groups. So congratulations on that. And that's not a small thing. Even being able to deliver a webinar style has its own set of unique skills that you have to bring into, because eye contact is not the same human to human as it is webcam to webinar. It's different. And I heard somebody say this in a webinar that I was listening to called Remember Your Friends Behind the Lens. And it's a little corny, but it helps you to remember that that's where the people are going to be picking up on eye contact, is when you look at the webcam itself. What's one thing that you're very proud of yourself, a skill that you developed that you feel really good about?
I've invested a lot of time in LGBT health. And that's served me well in my current position because I'm the only person in the entire team who has the background that I do in LGBT health and HIV counseling, sexual health. And so I'm very proud that I've dedicated the time and I've committed the time and the energy to learning all that I can from people who know more than me, specifically from like providers and things like that, to be able to develop my content properly. And so people are able to learn from me. And I think besides that, another skill that I'm really proud of is that I'm a very good problem solver. I'm very good at keeping calm when things don't go right and thinking and having backups for different things and kind of just thinking of different things that could go wrong and planning ahead.
And I would agree with that also, because ever since I've known you from the beginning of our class time together to now, I feel that you do have a logical thought process to figure things out. And it's coupled with an even temperament towards finding a solution to whatever the conflict is. And that is most definitely a powerful skill to have in every area of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you a question that I need you to think about. If you could go back in time to talk to your 18-year-old self for 15 seconds only, what would you say?
Calm down. I think I was worried about all the wrong things at that point in my life. I really thought for a long time that like grades defined me and like degrees defined me, but it's more so about you as an individual person and how you use your education to your advantage. I didn't realize that at that time. So I think definitely calm down and be confident that you'll be able to get where you need to go if you just take your time and use your resources and just keep learning.
It's another t-shirt design there. Calm down.
Yeah.
Self-care is something that's very important to me, and maybe even something that you address since you work in healthcare as well. What is the most recent thing that you did for yourself that was just for fun to take really good care of you?
The most recent thing is just going on Netflix and Hulu and just watching shows that are really good. And I also think I just cleared out my entire room of stuff I didn't want anymore. So I'm not holding on to stuff anymore. I'm moving more towards a minimalist lifestyle. And I'm just learning that so many things that I just kept, that I held on to over the years, I don't actually need. So I think clearing that out And also just not thinking I have to do everything in one day, and just taking time for myself to watch a show or watch maybe 5 episodes in one day if I feel like it. And just kind of balancing work and play, and work and self-care.
I'm with you in the minimalist thing. It's just the way that I'm made. I have very few things, and I like things to be clear and uncluttered, and that really helps my mindset. Anytime things start to get a little clunky, I need to clear it all out, and that actually affects my peace of mind significantly. So I agree with you on that part. Thank you so much, Dom. This is great, and I really appreciate the practicalness of what you took away from the leadership course, and were able to, and the immediacy of it too. You're able to take those strategies and apply it right away in your life. That's fantastic.